Proper marketing leads to sales. And one key part of that is marketing a product or your franchise, your team, your facility leads to success. And success, as we equate it, is sales and the overall availability to your consumer. And when we talk about consumers, how do you keep the consumers happy? In what ways do we do that? We provide an entertainment experience. When we talk about sport in general, you can think of different venues that you've gone to and different sporting events. And it's not just about the event itself, but it's about the environment that's provided to you as the consumer. And you think of big events like the Super Bowl and all of the different festivities that surround a giant event like that. The marketing that leads into that leads to the sales of people attending the event, but the overall experience keeps them there and helps the consumer to be very happy and to come back and to tell their friends about it. And then the success of it is determined by all of those factors. What are you selling? You could be selling a ticket. You can be selling a product. You can be selling a brand. You can also be selling the experience itself. There's a lot of different components that come into the idea of marketing and sales in respect to sport. So ticket membership, luxury seats or suites at an arena, those are very high cost factors and also affect the bottom line. When you have an overall budget, marketing and sales is a very, very big piece of the budget. And then you talk about luxury and standard, and we're talking about on slide 2 here about seats and suites within arenas and the different pricing structures there. And those are there for a reason. A lot of companies will use those as marketing tools for their own services and products. And so it becomes a secondary level of income. So the company that is using the event to market and brand their own product, they're giving into your bottom line by supplying customers for you as well. So marketing and sales really is a tiered structure that has a lot of different components to it. And it really is the overall success for the company, the corporation, or the franchise in itself. But a lot of people benefit. It becomes a win-win scenario if it's done correctly. When we talk about sponsorships, really, why is it so important to the success of what you're trying to accomplish? Sponsorships are people that will jump on board and put their name associated with yours. And the sponsorships obviously give money to become part of that team environment. And the sponsorships tag their name into it. And so there's cross-branding. Cross-marketing is a term you'll hear often, where both entities will be able to market off of each other because they share a partnership. And sponsorship is not just about giving money and feeding into the bottom line, but it's about that partnership of branding with one another. And it is very important to the success of a franchise. Without sponsorships, without that monetary money support, a lot of franchises, companies, venues, whichever piece of the pie you're looking at, they rely on the sponsorships in order to meet their bottom line and to fulfill into their budget. And the benefits of it really are, again, the cross-branding. It becomes a partnership between the two, putting your brand to something. And an example of that would be like Gatorade puts their name to specific athletes, specific teams. Gatorade was started at the University of Florida. The Florida Gators, if you don't know the story behind it, became their success, became their tagline, it became their key. And Gatorade exploded and became the preferred drink, preferred beverage to all college sports through all of athletics, essentially. And so you see the benefit of that. And sponsors part ways at times when there is a distrust issue. Sometimes they only want to associate for a certain length of time for a 1 to 3 year contract, and they want to move on to another level. So sometimes it's a stepping stone to something else bigger and better. And a lot of times sponsors don't feel that they're getting their money's worth or getting what they have been promised from the other party. So that's also a key. In marketing and sales, there are teams that come together to make sure fulfillment has occurred for the sponsor and for the brand so that the brand is happy, they get a return on their investment, and they will return and come back to sponsor again. Sponsorships really are an opportunity to sell something to a vendor. And again, Gatorade can be an example here. Nike can also be an example. Nike is a sponsor of many athletic programs, not just collegiate, but professional. And even in high schools, you'll see Nike sponsors high school All-American teams. And those are ways for the vendor to get their name brand out, to tag it onto big major events, to put their name on it, that they are associating themselves with high quality things. And then there's a lot of opportunity for instance, for Nike to obtain maybe sponsorships in other ways in different tiers. So Nike and Gatorade are two big examples that you are probably all very well aware of, and we see them constantly advertised through major events that we see with branding of teams, venues, all sorts of sports-related things. And that's really the key of what sponsorship is and what they do. There's a lot more depth to it, but those are key examples that you can start to chew on. Really, ad space is advertising in different things. Like when you go to a Laker championship game, an NBA championship game, you'll see brochures or pamphlets and commemorative books that you'll see being handed out and or charged for at the venues. And those are opportunities for an advertisement to come and to jump on board and to get their name out there. That's not actually a sponsorship. They're not tagging on for 3 years or a 5-year deal, but it's an advertisement that they're paying for a one-time piece or a few months. There's a timeline to it, and it's basically being able to advertise their product and to put it out there. And it looks a little different than a sponsorship, and it's paid space. So you'll see that on TV, radio, print, and internet. And in a virtual advertising, and also the green screens that you'll see at the World Series games. You'll see different ways of advertising, and for the local sponsor like Krispy Kreme Donuts to show up on the green screen or in the commercial for your time zone and for your region. And so advertising is very strategic in how it's done, and it's a way for the vendor to get some piece of the pie and to get some eyeballs looking at their product. Really, to end off the discussion, there's big money in advertising. Most sports entities rely on advertising in some way or another because really it's about the community, collegiate, and professional levels. You'll see advertising all over the place. It's on the boards. It's on the running boards at a basketball game. You'll see the highlights in football stadiums. You'll see banners. You'll see on the cups, branding, different ways where advertisement is happening, coupons being given out, different ways where you're able to get a little piece, an eyeball look at something different, something that might be related to the sport, something that might not be directly related, but the consumer would be interested in. So you'll see sometimes advertising sales, for instance, hard alcohol for Super Bowl and for different sporting events, whether you're in arena or on television. And you'll see that the reason those are happening is because they're predicting and assuming that there are people who are watching that are going to be interested in their products, such as hard alcohol, which would be a male consumer idea and concept. A new thing for NFL is you'll see women advertising, women being more geared towards the advertiser, which would be women's styling of NFL jerseys, women's apparel, different things that you begin to see on the NFL, because the NFL's done research on women consumers. They consume over 50% of the product for NFLs, that's including purchasing tickets, sometimes for their husbands, sometimes for them, but they are the consumer leader within the household. And the NFL's taken a charge at that and is really pushing towards the woman consumer. And you'll see some of that, and you'll want to pay more attention as the NFL comes into play here. As we get close to Super Bowl, you'll begin to notice that. But the bottom line is there really is big money in advertising, sponsorships as well, and there is a difference between the two, and it's very interesting to understand those concepts as they go hand in hand for success in the sport industry.